Today we're talking about a video game. More specifically, the first video game that ever grabbed me, and I didn't let go for a very, very long time. Maplestory. Maplestory was a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, or MMORPG as it's more commonly known. But for us, it was insane how much it changed everything. I started playing computer games with my friends probably a little bit before. I would have to guess around 13 maybe. And then this game would have come out in 2003 when I was 12. But it came out in Korea in 2003. And I don't live in Korea or speak Korean, so that didn't really affect us in any way. But in 2005, it comes to North America. We can speak English. We live in North America. Now we can play Maplestory. But I don't remember exactly when we started. It was fairly early on, because I remember the area just being fairly basic. I think they had expanded the map to a couple areas off of the main island. But what I really remember is that I joined shortly after they put in the free market, which was an area of it was one section that everyone, no matter where you were, could get to, because there were portals anywhere in the game. So it was one central hub, and that's where everyone would go and trade. I remember going into there, and it was just text-based, so everyone would be spamming these messages, and you would want yours to stand out so that you could see it in a sea of people, because you would have hundreds or thousands. I don't know how many could fit onto one map at one time, but if everyone was in there and everyone's standing there and they're all yelling that they are buying or selling a certain item or looking for this or whatever it is, you're trying to stand out, so you would fill your messages with @ symbols or other symbols to try to float it up so it would be up near the top of the screen. I remember going in there once towards the beginning, and my computer could not handle it and everything crashed. Later on, I'd be able to handle it when we got better computers, which was actually a main thing. Because of this game, we pushed for more computers in the house so we could all be playing at the same time. Before, any games that we wanted to play as a family, we'd either have to take turns. Eventually we got a PlayStation so we could play with multiple controllers, but what I remember the most was playing PC games and sharing a keyboard, especially Frogger. There was a 3D Frogger that they came out with where multiple people could play, and you just really needed the arrow keys, so 4 buttons. And then somebody else over here, and then somebody else over here somewhere on the keyboard, if you're imagining a keyboard. And one poor unlucky person did not get the arrow key layout with 1 on top and 3 below. They had to work on the F keys at the top that were just 4 in a row. That sucked. Whoever was the 4th player, they had the worst hand of it. That just... But anyway, I started playing this sometime in the beginning after it came out. I don't think it was in beta or anything, but sometime after that point when they had released it. And I remember people talking about, before the free market was a thing, there was just one universally agreed upon map that everyone would go to if you wanted to do any buying or selling of items with other players. Which was not entirely unfamiliar as a concept at all, because I'd been playing for the past year or two RuneScape with my friends. I had friends around my age, and we would get on every day after they got out of school, and we would play RuneScape, and then we'd play it on the weekends. And we would get on the phone, and we would be on the phone for 8 or 10 hours at a time, and pretty much the entire time on the weekends. You gotta think about it, this was long before Discord was a thing. It was long before anything. We didn't have computer headsets either. At best, we had... Some of us had wired phones, and some of us had wireless. And I remember when we upgraded to wireless, because it came with 4 phones that were wireless, and so as soon as you killed the battery on one, you go put that in the charger and you grab the other one, and you just keep rotating them in and out. And that had the ability to plug in earbuds, just 3.5 millimeter earbuds into the phone receiver itself, so you could hands-free play without having to be on speakerphone, which was also what we did a lot. This is what we did for years while we played video games. We played RuneScape, we played Maplestory for a long time. Eventually we kind of moved into other games, so Maplestory is the one that I went back to the most. We wound up trying just anything, whatever we could find, as long as it was free to play, so that we could all do it, because none of us had money or the ability to buy anything. And it was online, so we would play. I remember playing Guns with a Z an awful lot. That was another one. But anyway, Maplestory. I'm kind of guessing at the dates here. I don't know exactly, because we didn't really record anything there. I know one of the earliest photographs I have from my own camera is me in my room playing Maplestory. because I got my own computer at that point and I was allowed to put it up in my room, and that was the game that I played. And when I'm not exaggerating when I say this took over everything. For a period of time, there was about 2 straight months where I went, okay, I really want to get to, at that point it was level 70 when you got a different job advancement, which unlocked a whole bunch of new skills, an entirely new outcome, and it was just, you got a new title. It was really important at the time. And it took a really long time to level up back in the day. They have since changed it so it is much easier, but it was a grind to get there. For example, 2 straight months, I would wake up, get on Maplestory. I would take a break every once in a while to eat or bathroom, shower, things like that. So all in all, maybe 2 hours away from the computer. So out of a 16-hour day that I was awake, I would sleep for 8 hours. There's your 24 hours, right? 16 hours I was awake, I was on Maplestory for 14 of them. And that is really where I learned what grinding in video games really meant and how long of a slog it is, and what you can do in the meantime. I would just have cable TV on in the background, or I'd be listening to music and I would mute the game sounds so I could do that. It was so demoralizing how long it took to level up that you would open up. I learned this from somebody on a Maplestory forum. They're like, it's way easier, and instead of just sitting there watching the numbers slowly go up in your experience bar by percentages, just cover it up. Open up a window for like your inventory and you can click and drag to rearrange it. Cover up the experience bar. Then just play for a while, like an hour, and come back, you've gotten 10% more. I think an hour for 10% was about the best I ever managed. It took such a long time. But I did it. 2 straight months of 14 to 16 hours a day doing nothing but playing Maplestory, and I finally hit that level 70. And by that point, I was pretty much done with the game. I did not want to continue playing. I was really tired of it. But in 2007, after a few years of doing this, the trading cards came out. And that's really, because I have basically no way to show you any of the old footage of that stuff, I'm not set up to play computer games. That'll be at a later point in time. But I don't have access to any of that anymore. The account's long gone. I don't have the email for it anymore. I cannot recover it in any way. I have tried my best to try to get back to that, but it is long gone. Another thing I really remember specifically when my siblings started getting into it. Now, here's the thing. I backtrack a little bit. When I played through on my first character, one of the things that specifically got me into the game was I saw a really cool sword. It was a big green 2-handed sword that had like holes in it. I believe it was called the Zard, Z-A-R-D. I wanted that more than anything. And you had to be level 40 to get to that. So I spent a few months getting to there. And then I finally got it. I had to buy it from somebody. And I couldn't use it. I couldn't use it because I didn't have the stats for it. I did not have my points and the right skills in order to use that particular weapon. Because I didn't know, as a warrior, you put your points more into strength. This was the first RPG like that I had ever played, and I did not know the rules of what you're supposed to do, and the game did not specifically tell you exactly like that until I got too far later on, and there wasn't a way to reset it at that time. Now the game basically does it for you entirely, but at that point you could not even pay real money to have your skills reset, as far as I remember. I know they added that in at some point, but this was before then. So, to save my siblings from that kind of hassle, when they started playing, I went, what kind of character do you want to play? And then let me help you get to that point so you have the right skills. I wound up finding someone who made basically a level-by-level guide of where exactly to put all of your skill points to max out your damage so you could level faster, all the way up through, I think, level 30. I printed that out. I printed out pages and pages and pages for every class. There were 4 classes that I found this guy, and I basically just took it from the internet, reformatted it so I could print it, and then I printed, and I made a whole booklet of it. I don't remember. Man, thinking about that now, I basically made a game guide by stealing it from someone else on the internet that was just for our internal use. But the really fun, that does remind me, a side tangent of that, at some point I got bored and created a new character when I was, again, on a Maplestory forum, and somebody had talked about, oh, this is a viable option. You can make a character and put every single one of your points into health, which no one did. None of the builds, none of anything I read, no guides ever suggested putting points into it, because you just had enough. By naturally leveling up, you'd get some, but you could put points into it. And if you did, and you put a bunch of points into it, and you were a warrior, you could get a skill that would reflect back damage that you took onto enemies without you having to do anything. It was just touch based. If they touched you, they would take damage, and it would be based on a percentage of your health. See where I'm going with this? So I remember doing that and getting to level 30 on that character, and by that point I had 30,000 health points. And your typical level 30 character who was not doing something like that would have maybe a few thousand, maybe, I don't remember exact numbers. You're talking about a game that I played more than 10 years ago, but I do remember being basically unable to be killed except by monsters that were really high level and very overpowered. And that was just so much fun, because you would just walk through enemies and they would kill themselves attacking you. And then you could just go back and forth without having to press any buttons to use attack skills. You could just walk back and forth and they would get hit by you. You would be hitting them with your rebound stuff, and you could just press one of the F keys to do a little smile. And your siblings would be so mad because they're like, this is ridiculous, you've broken the game. And I go, no, it's so much fun. So yeah, that game really took over for all of us. It is the game. We will still quote from it. We will still talk about the game. We will want to get back into it. We have tried as adults to play it again. No one really has the time to dedicate to something like that, and that's a big reason why we don't wind up playing it again. But that was the game. I don't know how much money we would have spent on the in-game currency. Certainly not an insignificant amount, but I had a job that I worked until I was about 14, so I did have some money there. I think we had an allowance. There were some way, go mow the lawn, something like that. There were ways to get some money. So it wasn't impossible, but the only way we could go and get that, none of us had a credit card, and my dad goes, you are not putting my credit card into that game. That is not happening. And that was a very smart move on his part. So we would go buy the physical cards from Target, from gas stations, wherever we would get them. We would go buy those in cash so we could turn them into points to then buy our characters customization, better skins and armor and cosmetics. That's the word I'm looking for. We would make them look differently. And this is far more prevalent in today's gaming with everything that happens in microtransactions, but at the time we didn't know any better. The game was free, so it made sense, because any other game you wanted to play, if it wasn't free to play with an MMO online, you would have to pay money for, so it did work out. Now in 2007, the trading cards came out, and we'll talk about this more in depth. Trading cards in general, I got into a lot of different trading cards. I have a lot of them, and they will be in videos like this in the future, but specifically Maplestory, this is all I have. Because by that point, not only did I not have the money, I wasn't really playing Maplestory all that much, but it was a fun thing, but it wasn't something I could just dump money into. So this is all I have. And I don't know where exactly. I remember going and trying to find them when they came out. They were incredibly hard to find. They were only in select areas. And I think I went to a Walgreens. Some kind of pharmacy drugstore had them. And I bought 2 packs, I want to say. And since then, some of the cards are gone because I looked up how many came in a pack, and I don't have a full 2 packs worth, but I have more than 1. So there's math. Nothing super exciting from these. We didn't get any rares or anything like that. Just a few various cards here of different things. That was a spell you used if you were a magician character. Oh, Peppy? I don't remember how we pronounced that back in the day. We would go to areas that we could not actually kill the monsters, but just for fun to see the area, because we knew we were never going to get to a high enough level where we would be able to actually fight these guys. So it was just run as quick as you can, die as many times as it takes to get there, and then you're there. Cool. And that was part of the game for us. This must have been after one of their updates. These were not in the original base game that we played so much of, but maybe later on. Energy Bolt, yep, that was another magician spell. Pretty basic, but good times. Now we're talking. The Lorang, the crabs from Florina Beach. We were there a lot. I remember us going and really enjoying that area. I still listen to Maplestory music pretty much every week. as like background music. So I immediately am currently hearing this playing in my head. The music from the map where these guys were. Oh man, going through the clock tower? Yeah, I remember us exploring that area. That was something we would, again, God, it took forever to get places in games. Like, you would literally go, okay, I'm going to move from this main city to one of the other ones, like, and going through 40 levels of a clock tower or something like that, even with the teleports that were in there, it would take you over an hour to actually move somewhere in the game. It was a big decision if you were like, hey, I'm going here to do this. Oh, yep. Focus. Okay. I remember that. That was something for the archery, I believe. I played as an archer a little bit, but mostly I did warrior, and then I wound up doing one of the assassins, which is, I already know what's coming up. There we go. The throwing stars. The throwing stars were so cool. I mean, look, we did martial arts, right? We knew about throwing stars. I owned throwing stars. I would practice with them in the backyard. It was really cool. Getting the different kinds of throwing stars in the video game, ooh, yes. And I remember you would be playing and we'd be there training, or grinding out levels, trying to level up, and then some really high level comes through and does like one skill and it wipes away so many because by that point they're throwing, like, I think the best you could do is 2, and then you'd level up later to be 3, and they could throw 4 or 5 or 6, or I don't even remember, but it just looked so much better as a progression. Amazing. We would instantly go, oh, yes, please, that's what we would want to do. So, yes, this has gone on long enough. For all of these reasons and many, many more, Maplestory was the game that took over everything. It was easily the game we played the most time in, the most fun that I had, because I always had a sibling to play with, even if my friends were busy or at school or whatever, whatever. If they've moved on to another game, siblings would want to play Maplestory. I have very much thought about playing Maplestory again and recording it and just talking through the various differences and kind of doing more of a Let's Play video in it. I might do that at some point. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but it might happen. But seeing these cards brings everything back. I wish I had certain ones just based on the fact of memories. I wish I had an orange mushroom, because that's that classic. I still use this. I not that long ago went, oh, you know what's cute? These little orange mushrooms. And I added an emoji to our work Slack for a company that has nothing to do with it. And I just use that as mine. Like, I try to associate that because Maplestory, no one else I work with plays Maplestory. No one else knows about this. This is a professional company and has absolutely nothing to do with video games. But I like the Maplestory mushroom. Like I said, for those reasons and so many others, Maplestory will always have a place in my heart as fantastic. I would love to play through. Even at one point after they changed, I know I was wrapping up the video, but at one point they changed, they had the Big Bang, where they reset all of the levels, made it way easier to level. It was very different. I had that itch to play classic Maplestory again. And we started playing private servers, which were not technically legal and would wind up getting shut down. And then after a while, this is much later on towards when I'm adult and I start tinkering around, really the first time I ever tried my hand at any kind of programming, I made my own Maplestory private server after following guides of people online, and then I started going in and tinkering with the codes. And I opened up I opened up my computer so that my friends could join if they knew my IP address. I did port forwarding, there was a whole thing. I got them to connect to it whenever I had it hosted on my computer and it was up and running. They could play around in it. And so then we broke it in many various ways by jacking up how many monsters you could spawn at one time and the experience and all this stuff. It was so much fun. But I also remember going in and changing some of the characters, what they said. Again, at this point, there was no voice in the game at all. It was all text-based. And so you would go in and you could change the text so that I would go, oh, hey, come talk to this NPC right here. And my friend Josh would be playing. And he'd come and open up and it would just say, Josh is a bum or something like that. And he'd go, what is this quest? What have you given me? Oh, man, that was good. This is something that I more than like. It is not possible to capture it all in one short video. Just exactly what this did, what this meant, the friends that I made online. This transformed my life in a very significant way. Maplestory was the game, and I really enjoyed it.